Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, or you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, everyone. This is Laura Womack of Never Too Late Cafe with the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast. And today I have a very special guest with me, Waynette Pennell. Hi.
Hi, Laura. Thanks.
So tell us where you currently live and where you're from originally.
Originally, I was born in Independence, Missouri, and later we lived in Kansas City, Missouri. That's when I was a little girl. Mm-hmm. And now I am, after marriage and children and all, we moved to here in Louisville, Kentucky. I was out on my own sometime after that, but I want to tell you what popped in my mind just a couple of days ago. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to someone about doing this broadcast. Mm-hmm. And I said, my life is in segments of 20 years. It's like I was born and 20 years later, it's marriage, then it's on my own. And then it's now. There's all 20 years doing those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get into all of your many things. So tell me what your art form is. It seems like I just found out you're multi-talented. So can you explain a little bit about what your art mediums are?
Oh, I'll try just about anything. Years and years and years ago, I was working in oil just for my own satisfaction, trying to see what the medium was like. Then I went on hold for a long time and just made dresses for my daughters. And then when on my own, that didn't produce any kind of talent unless it's writing letters in the corporate world. But now my medium is mainly quilting, and not traditional quilts anymore. I did those for a while. Then I had that urge to do these wall quilts. Started doing things like this.
And you're an author.
And yes, I am.
So how did that come about? How long have you been writing?
Well, when I was in my second segment of life, mm-hmm. With 4 children, a husband and 4 children, and a dog or 2, that's when we moved to from Kansas City to Kentucky. And my girls have been involved in the Campfire Girl program mm-hmm. while in Kansas City. And I thought, gosh, we're yanking them up away from their friends and their activities. And so I called the headquarters of the Campfire Girls up in New York, asked them if I could have a group here. He said, oh yeah, up to 4, at least 6 girls. So that carried me on through. And then while I was there working with the Campfire Girls, I wanted to go on. And so I had several women help me recruit the girls from the schools and all. And after a while, we were heading towards certification, and we had a board of directors that self-appointed more or less, mm-hmm. and asking the helpers from headquarters that what can I do more? And they said, well, you need at least 2 years of college, and then you would be able to be the vice director, not the head guy, but the second in line who handles things with the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Jefferson Community College, downtown Louisville, and enrolled in my first college class. And then as the semester went along, I was having a good time and doing fine. And I left one class, and it was time for us to enroll in our next things. I was going to enroll in English. I came out of a biology class, and right across the hall was this bulletin board, and it had this photograph, a little newspaper clipping of this man sitting on a stool holding a guitar in his hands, and notifying that he was going to give a concert. And I thought, oh, if he's that talented, I want to take English from him. Oh. And so eventually I had 3 or 4 classes with him. Went on into English, creative writing, and then the poetry group, and learned how to take care of my emotions when people would criticize. He always told us that don't be afraid of rejections, because there's always someone else who loves what you do. So good that's advice. How I got into it.
So that's when we had a conversation earlier. That's what you meant when you said you were a late bloomer for college and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it was right after the Vietnam War that a lot of the soldiers were coming home and going to college, and I met a lot of nice people.
Wow.
Folks, some of them as old as as young as my daughters going to college. And I just fit right in. They didn't see me as a mama figure, they saw me as a student. And that felt really good to me.
I was going to say, it probably felt good. So you started writing poetry, and you started gathering them, collecting them. And at some point, a book, the collection became a book.
Yes. My creative writing teacher, Lee Pennington, has become friends, and he said, it's time you had a book, Waynette. I said, okay, I'll gather up my poems, see if I have any suitable for a book. So I think I came up with 50 of them. And one of the poems is titled, Even Ghosts These Days Make Do. So that's going to be the title of the book. Well, the poem that I wrote was about my son, Carrie, who, when visiting me in another situation there, called out, came running in the house and saying, Mom, there's a goat on the car. And I said, oh, and we all said, no, Carrie, you're just joking again. Oh, no, I'm saying true. And so we went outside, and sure enough, there was a goat standing on the hood of a car, our neighbor's car. So that's what the title is from, and hopefully it'll be catchy enough for people to look inside.
Well, it's definitely a catchy title. So, and then you have some illustrations, pictures of, describe some of the pictures, the illustrations in the book.
Oh, yes. At Pennington's suggestion, and of which I thought was really good because I wouldn't have to hire an artist or do my own pen and ink. He said, put your quilts up as the illustration in your book. Of course, in my book, there's not a single poem about quilting, but they are going in the book.
Wow. So you have, obviously you have a lot of them then.
Well, the four, can you see four?
I can see two in your background. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
Very cool.
Anyway, all of those four I made when I lived in Florida. That was a 20-year segment of my life in Florida. And I bought a new sewing machine, and I just wanted to make sure it would just do a zigzag once in a while, and just for mending and things like that. So, and I thought, oh, maybe I better take that free class they have on getting to know your machine. So I did, and then we had some fabric, and we were to follow these directions, and I thought, I'm making a quilt. And I had sworn off that I would never make a quilt. That was for the old ladies to do. So I found out it was extremely rewarding, and just, I think I just flowered that flower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And yours are not traditional looking. I mean, they look like a painting from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Can you see the oranges, the fruit?
Yes. Yes.
All of those, that fruit is done with what we call free motion painting. Each one of that fruit is zigzag back and forth. It completely covers any fabric that's behind that group of fruit. Now, this was done with a contest with the group in Florida called the Out of the Box Design Group.
Mm-hmm.
And the group decided to have a challenge that we could send off to the Paducah, the American Quilt Society. You probably know about the quilts in Paducah, Kentucky.
I know Paducah is a very creative community.
Yes. So there was a category that we could enter if we had 8 people making their own idea of postcard in Florida, or the flowers. Mm-hmm. So 8 of us, and all 4 of these represent 4 different years of a group of us of 8, where we were accepted to the quilt show in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh.
So that was quite an honor just to even be juried in, because they had to choose groups that had 8 different quilts made by 8 different people.
Wow. So how do you get from where you live to being in a show that's in either Paducah or Grand Rapids? Are there lists and you just go through and find out where they're at and you submit?
Yeah, that for the shows, a lot of communities have shows, quilt shows, all over the country and in Europe even now. And we just knew that the one in Paducah that's the crown jewel of the quilting community. They started their quilt shows 40 years ago. And this is the largest in the world.
Oh, really?
And so it's quite a honor to be able to take our quilts to the Grand Rapids, Michigan show.
Amazing. So we've talked previously and chatted about some other sort of current position that you're doing with a local Louisville, Kentucky group on archaeology. Can you
Oh,
tell me
yes.
tell me about the group and what your role is in that?
Yeah, had a little history first in
Okay.
that when I moved to Kentucky, I was just like left my friends, left my design group where we all encouraged each other and critiqued each other's nicely, and never a negative, but a negative done in a kind way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, there'll probably be something in Kentucky, but I'll have to wait. Anyway, I came down with not feeling well, and it took weeks to find out months actually, what was wrong with so I couldn't get started in looking for the quilting community at that time. But as time goes on, and you're thinking, what the things that you leave behind, you think, well, I'll find the same thing somewhere else, but that doesn't work. You find the similar, but not as well organized or whatever. So that's what got started me on working here. And then I found out that Lee Pennington was the president of this ancient Kentucky Historic Association. And so I went to one of the meetings, because it sounded really interesting, digging up old stuff and finding Indian mounds and stuff like that. And so now I've been going to the meetings for quite a while and met some really, really fine people. And I guess now I'm secretary treasurer. I volunteered for that.
From a visit to a position that's wonderful. So
I guess my name will be on the newsletter heading
So is this just a local Kentucky group, or do they look at archaeology all over?
Well, it all kind of mixes up in together, but this is mainly for Kentucky, but they're researching things all around, but mainly in Kentucky. And most of the group, many of the group, I should say, go up to the annual meeting in Upper Michigan of the Ancient American Archaeology.
Oh, okay.
But I've never gotten to go to that. I just stay here and think about it.
Well, that's incredible. So you have done a lot, and you've traveled and lived around, and I think you've had a fascinating life.
Well,
so
yeah. My time in the one of the segments of my life was when I was working in the supermarket industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mean that I was working in a grocery store. I started working with a company down in Mississippi, and it was I became the equipment buyer for the supermarkets whenever a new store was going up and they had a whole store full of things. Well, I would get the blueprints of that and look at how many sinks are in here, how many this is that. Anyway, I would buy the equipment and get them to the stores in time for the store to open. I knew where to get everything for a supermarket that you see in the supermarket, from a deli spoon to a paper baler in the back room of the thing. And I did get to travel, somewhat. And it was just a lot of fun. And there were some funny things that people would ask for to to purchase for the. There was one place. It was they had this big, huge, life-size cow. I want to say figurine, but that's not right. It's a life-size cow, and this one store put it up in their large store on the roof.
Oh,
well, I had to. They wanted to have a cow mooing, so I was asked to find a recording of a mooing cow, and I thought. I really tried. And then somebody in the company decided to go out at the farm and record the cows mooing. So they had the cow mooing, and it would go on 24/7. Well, the neighbors in the neighborhood behind the store was irate, and the end result was they had to stop the mooing, and then they decided to take the cow down. Well, then there was a time when after that, one of the other stores wanted the cow, and the maintenance guys with the company, they didn't want to have anything to do with that cow. Well, this one guy, they insisted that Bill puts the cow on a trailer and go down to Mississippi with it. And he said he ducked every time he saw someone he might know, because he was embarrassed about taking that cow. Another thing that I had searched out was some scientists at the KU extender, no, it was Tennessee. They're in Memphis, Tennessee, when I was there. They wanted a grinder that would grind up a frozen rabbit. They were doing some sort of research that I thought, frozen rabbit. So I called the biggest machinery company that I knew of that handled meats and stuff. And they talked with the scientists over there. I don't remember their names, and they decided, well, maybe it's not such a good idea to have frozen. Maybe we should cut them up first. Weird things from a cow to the frozen rabbit.
I agree. Wow, that is some exciting things to have to do for your job. Well, it sure makes for a good story, though, doesn't it?
It does. I know I flew into Charlotte, South Carolina for a store opening of the Piggly Wiggly store chain. Mm-hmm. And their headquarters was in Memphis. Anyway, I flew into Charleston, and it was just a few days after the Hurricane Hugo had come aboard. And there was a big pile of trash burning, all the junk that was damaged in the wood and all this great huge flame reaching the moon. And then all the destruction, and then the man I was to meet took me on a tour of the city, and all the devastation in there was bad. Well, and we came down to Florida. When I was in Florida working, I experienced three hurricanes and some tropical storms also.
Those are scary. Those are scary. Well, this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted. And I was just wondering what that quote means to you.
When I first heard it or read it, I thought, oh, what I saw in my mind was this water lily floating on a pool. It was the only one around, and its roots going down deep. And that the flower was just barely opening. And it seems like every place that I had gone for another segment of life, the water lily opened a little bit more, and opening. And now I don't know if it's all the way open yet. But I'm probably on the last segment.
So you are still blooming.
Still blooming. You never stop.
I like that.
As if you never stop, you'll be never mind.
So what kind of advice or words of wisdom would you give to someone? I mean, you've done multiple of things. I mean, you did, on a board from archaeology group. You've been a competitive quilter. You're a published author, and just all the things that you've done. What would you say to someone about if they wanted to do what you have done? What would you share with them?
In a way, it's rather hard to share what I would feel about that, because so many people, and I was kind of like one like this way back, say to themselves and to others, oh, I can't do that. I'm not talented. So to tell someone that, oh, but you can do it. It depends on how deeply that negative belief is in the other person. But I know that I learned all those years and years ago that don't be afraid of rejection, because someone else will love it.
That's wonderful words. And I believe it's so true. And that sounds like one of your instructors might have helped you believe in that.
I believe so. True.
So what is next for Waynette?
I don't know yet. I think working with the ancient Kentucky is, and I don't mean that I'm going to go out there and conquer the world and find all this good stuff, but just knowing that I know some folks who are doing that, and that it's a privilege for me to follow that. The simple path that I have for that particular group. But for anything, I'll just wait until I hear the voice.
And you've got your book, and you'll be promoting that very soon. And
I hope so. COVID kind of did a bad thing for all of us.
Right. Well, let's hope that we're on the upside of it, at least enough that you can get some promotions and things like that. I know that we met at the Imaginarium in Louisville, Kentucky, that creative environment. It's a wonderful environment. And I'm so glad we met. And I thank you for being a guest with me today and sharing your stories and basically your adventures through your different segments of life. So again, I want to thank you, Waynette, for being a guest. And this is Laura Womack from Never Too Late Cafe, the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast with Waynette Pennell.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you.